Hi, and welcome to the Liquor Connoisseur. I'm Crystal.
I'm Roger.
Today we have a special guest. We have Mason Maidt from Vinifera OKC. He is a wine enthusiast, future sommelier. Welcome. Oh, and booze nerd.
Had a big old booze nerd. Thank you guys so much for having me join you today. I'm super excited about it. Loved seeing, what you guys are getting into, and, just love talking booze.
Yeah, we do too. But where we met you was at a private wine tasting. Your company, I guess that's mainly what you all do, is private wine tastings.
Yeah. So it's kind of a passion project that I started up really in earnest last October in 2023. And it's just me, myself, and I do at-home education-centric wine tastings. And just the whole goal is to kind of help people understand the wine world from a more foundational aspect. And that way we can get comfortable exploring and branching out, trying new stuff.
And you definitely did that for us.
Yeah, we're very new in that space. We've learned, I think, about 80-90% of what I know about wine is thanks to Mason. Thank you so much.
Yes, all those wines were perfect, which is why we wanted to have you here. And we're going to talk today about whiskeys finished in sherry cask.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we want to go ahead and get into one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. So what I brought for us today, I've got a couple of different things to run through, but this first one is going to be from a personal favorite Japanese distillery, the Mars Shinsu Distillery. Okay. This is going to be from their Cosmo series, and basically what they tend to do in their Cosmo series is various kind of dry wine finishes. So they've done like a Cabernet cask finish that was really great and bold. And then this one plays a lot more to the lighter side in a Manzanilla sherry finish.
This is different. I'm not used to having a pour done for me. This is great.
Well, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
And see how
at your
even
service.
that pour is?
Yes, it's fair. It's
Yeah.
nothing like mine that can be one-sided.
Well, we'll see what happens whenever we get a couple whiskeys down the road.
Okay, fair.
Might get a little heavier handed. So this guy, like I said, it's finished in a Manzanilla sherry cask, right? And there are several different gradients of sherry. First and, probably most obviously, but I'd like to say it for anyone watching that might not know, sherry's just wine. And it's typically actually a dry wine. And Manzanilla is one of the kind of drier styles of sherry. So all of your sherry for pretty much the whole world is coming from a small little triangular region in southwestern Spain. And they can use 3 different grapes to make that. 90% of sherry is going to be made from a grape called Palomino. They can also use a grape called Muscatel that's in the same family as Moscato or Muscat. And then they'll also use another grape, oftentimes called Pedro Jimenez, and that's where we start to see PX. Those are the initials for Pedro Jimenez. Spanish like to use the letter X instead of H or J. I don't know. I'm not the linguist there. But with the Manzanilla style, what they're doing is they're taking a dry wine, but just perfectly white wine, and when they throw it in barrel, the conditions in this region allow for this, it sounds a little like kind of intimidating and a little but it's very naturally occurring mold that grows on the surface of the wine as it's sitting in its cask. And what that mold does is it protects the wine from oxygen. So, I was talking about in our class, oxygen can be a wine's best friend or its worst enemy.
Right.
In this instance, with sherry, actually, it can play very strongly in both ways, whether you protect it from oxygen or let it see it. So this layer of mold is called flor, F-L-O-R. And when that flor grows, oxygen is not penetrating it. It literally looks like just a kind of a blanket over the wine in the barrel itself. And it also imparts this kind of breadiness to it. And that's when you start to get into the common flavor profiles of Manzanilla sherry and Fino sherry. Both of those are 2 dry types of sherry that see that floor grow over it. And as we know, once you throw whiskey into a barrel that's housed something else, it's going to take on a little bit of that flavor. So usually you can expect a little bit of a breadiness. Sometimes some green apple can come through on the nose. And this one's clocking in at about 45%.
Okay.
Definitely get that green apple, I feel like, on the nose.
That is well, because you still get the smoke too. So,
All right, first sip.
oh, that's quite tasty. Mm-hmm.
Now, clearly I've had this thing open before.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love what these guys do, and I love Japanese whiskey as a whole. So it has seen a little bit of oxygen. Some of the initial flavors from the first crack kind of burned off, but it really does maintain that green apple. It maintains that breadiness. And those are kind of the biggest, most prominent features of a sherry. And, you know, whenever you start throwing something as powerful as whiskey into it, it tends to take over a little bit.
Man,
This is nice.
Yeah.
This was not on our radar either, so thank you.
Oh, yeah.
This one, this is
Back when we started doing Japanese whiskey in Oklahoma, there were only two
like
or three
two.
brands.
it felt like it was two.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like in our market, Hibiki Harmony is probably the biggest one. Suntory Toki is another big one that they made specifically for the highball. It's the national cocktail of Japan. It's just whiskey highball, and so that's what that one was made for. But I feel like lately we've started seeing a lot more different Japanese whiskeys entering our market. Mars is actually a pretty solidly sized import into the US.
Okay.
And I've been super excited to start getting more and more of their stuff in our city over the past couple of years, and especially when it comes to the Cosmo series.
Well, we'll definitely be picking this up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is, I've never had anything like this.
This is delicious. It reminds me of the other Japanese whiskeys that we've had, but this has more fruits, so you get like the apple stuff going on. It's very
more of
bold
that smoke
flavors.
now.
Man, this is beautiful.
Second sip.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's fun for me too, starting to get into these whiskeys. As a little fun fact, I started learning Japanese earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
And so now I'm starting to kind of translate like what's on the bottles. So like even this right here, you can tell there are a couple of different writing styles on this. So this one is in a writing writing style that's used to denote non-native Japanese words. So a word that was not originally created in the Japanese language. Okay. And so each symbol represents a syllable. So this is u, I, su, ki. And then this just says that ki is longer. So say it faster and it's uisuki.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
And then this one actually dabbles into a couple of those different writing styles. But basically just says Manzanilla cask finish. So it's helpful when the stuff's also in English above it. But
that is neat, man.
That is really cool.
And that's another education component that we like to promote. This is great.
I can't reiterate it enough. I'm just a big old nerd, and I like nerding out with booze.
Same. I got to get to your level, though.
This is great.
The trick is to, drink a lot, make sure you do it in a healthy way, but
yeah,
I've tasted a lot of stuff and ask the questions of why. Why is this way? Why is it described this way? And it all started for me with like the question of, is this, very ignorantly asked, is this bourbon or is this whiskey?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when, someone came to me and was like, both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just kept on asking more questions and just went down a rabbit hole on that one.
No, that's really it. Especially as you go to your local liquor stores, find one that prides itself on education. When you go in there, ask them, hey, I'm looking for these notes. I'm looking for this type of spirit. And if you get a good person, a great store, they'll be able to help you out, and you'll be able to find some great things.
Yeah. And it's, for me, it's a lot of, kind of like what I covered in the class with you guys, is more of the textural components of what's in your glass. An old mentor of mine, he very comedically but very truthfully said, nobody's ever ordered a wine that smells like roses. They want a bold, like structured or high acid or high tannin wine. And that means so many things. That you can get to so many places with that. Same here in whiskey, I'm craving a sherry finish, something that's got a little bit more of a weighty palate to it. Maybe not the run-of-the-mill 80 proof, but maybe not quite cask strength either.
Oh, yeah.
And just from there, those foundational components are kind of what I like to mess around with and see where it takes me.
Okay. I'm going to cleanse a little bit.
Yeah.
So you want to check out the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. Let me save this because I'm going to cherish that one for a while.
Yeah, that's a good sipper.
All right. So new to us. Matter of fact, I'm going to start opening the bottle in case we have technical difficulties, and I'll pass you this box. We've had our fair share.
Yeah, fresh cracks don't always go the way you think.
Sometimes I have to get up and go away from camera.
Sometimes the packaging is a little tricky.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But Glenmorangie is a great light Highland single malt Scotch. We talked a lot about Glenmorangie with Dwayne Poore in that series. And so even with him, we did a lot of sherry finish single malts. And so this is one we found at Freeman's when we were out and about, just looking, what's next? What do we want to do? And we found this single estate 15-year. It is a limited release. So we were excited to share that with you today.
Success.
And yeah, it's the Cadball Estate. So this is supposed to be nutty and sweet with notes of toffee, almonds, and clove. So this is aged 15 years in bourbon and Amontillado.
Amontillado.
There we go. That's why you're here.
Yes. Got you guys.
Yes. So yeah.
I'm excited about this one. Actually, truth be told, Scotch is a weak point for me.
Okay.
Despite ironically loving Japanese whiskey, because the Scots are who taught the Japanese about whiskey making. So I am not very well versed in Scotch, but I am very excited about this one.
Yeah. So with this being from the Highland, we won't have the smoky peat.
Yeah, it won't
flavor.
be peat forward, but should be. Oh man, yeah, I have not had one.
So this is going to be sweet. Again, I think they said nutty. Yeah, they
a
described
lot
it
more fruit.
accurately.
Yeah, orange.
So with Amontillado, and is kind of the next gradient up into a sherry cask finish. Not necessarily in quality, but just in way it's made. So whereas a Fino or a Manzanilla like we just had is going to see that layer of floor over it for the entire time, fully protecting it from oxygen. And Amontillado is only going to see that for a little bit. So they're going to usually let that floor create and thrive for just a little bit over the wine so that it imparts that breadiness. And then through any number of methods, they usually, oftentimes like a fortification or maybe a sweetening, something, they'll add something into the barrel that will kill the floor. And so that then goes away and it lets oxygen begin to get through. So the wine's already got its breadiness to it, but now oxygen's coming in. And whenever you introduce oxygen to wine, if it's controlled, you begin to get this intentionally sort of nutty flavor to it. So Amontillado is kind of like the hybrid between all floor and no floor.
Okay. This is definitely very aromatic.
I thought it would be a lot sweeter, but it's not as sweet. It's just fruit, but just not nectar, you know?
Yes.
Less smoke.
Yes.
It sits with a lot more weight than I thought it would, too.
Yeah, I mean, typically, like the orange label is not going to have that much weight and body to it. But this is good.
Now, those oxidative qualities from the Manzanilla cask certainly come through. So does the sort of like uniquely American sweetness from that bourbon finish on it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm still getting a little bit of that sort of like a little bit hidden away, but a little bit of that same green apple note that we were hitting on the Mars.
And this one is 43% alcohol. It's a little less than the Mars.
This is good.
But definitely lighter than the Mars. It doesn't hit as heavy. Mars punched a little more than this one.
Yeah.
But definitely this one has a lingering finish.
It's definitely got a decent hang time on it. I feel like more of the sort of bourbon finish characteristics come through on it, kind of on the back end of the palate for me a little bit.
Okay.
It's like it seems like the more delicate flavors from the sherry and then from the malt itself are sitting very much up front, and then that sort of like powerful component from a bourbon finish just really helps carry it all the way through.
Yeah, definitely. These are some tasty treats.
Oh yeah.
And what's the price point on this one? I think it's okay. I should know this. It's somewhere in the $75 to $80 range for this particular expression.
We looked at some the other day. I'm like running through.
Yeah. This is delicious for that.
Yeah, you're right. I believe it was about the $75 range because there were two we were contemplating, and we went ahead and went with this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it.
Yeah, that's real good. Opens up quick and really nicely too.
You can't beat sherry. I mean, a sherry cask finish. I
was honestly, and I don't want to say I'm embarrassed to admit it, but it's strange for me just being, having the business that I do. Didn't love dry sherry for a very long time. It was very much not for me. I did not like that breadiness. If I were to go and just have some sherry or use some sherry in like a cocktail or something, I always wanted to go the Oloroso route because Oloroso sherry sees absolutely no floor. And so it's all oxidative. It's all nutty. And I loved that. Hated the breadiness. I've since kind of come to the light, I guess. And, I have a great appreciation for all of it. But it took me a while to really get into a sherry finish. And I think honestly, a lot of whiskeys finished in sherry kind of helped me kind of dip my toes into that a little bit.